Well, thanks for being on the call, Jennifer. We missed you last week.
Yes, I missed you guys last week too. Yeah, last week I was just kind of in a funk earlier in the week.
Yeah.
I was just like, it wasn't like, oh, this isn't working. I don't want to do it anymore. It wasn't anything like that, but that was the first time my motivation just really kind of plummeted.
Yeah, what do you think? I mean, I that happens and we're coming into we're like week 6, of fat
Mhm.
loss. So it sometimes the novelty wears off a bit,
Right,
right?
right.
And we're kind of like more into like I don't want to say the drudgery, but kind of like the day to day. Do
hmm
you think that had anything to do with it, or was there any other outlying factors that contributed to the slump?
yeah, I think it's just kind of the timing. It's like you've gotten used to it, but now you kind of have to keep doing it to make sure that you follow through with one, what you signed up with, but then also so that you see the results that you want.
Yeah.
And then also I did have a few days like on Sunday, I don't think I tracked hardly anything. And Saturday I tracked very little. And so I think that was just kind of a compounding effect of being like, oh, I'll just kind of wing it. I was like, no, let's not do that. So that's why on Tuesday I was like, hey, we've just got to jump right back in. We're gonna track all the food, we're gonna do all the things and just keep rolling full steam ahead.
You,
So
yeah, and the irony in that is that you had your biggest drop this week. I
isn't
actually
that
like
funny?
I get little notifications that come through and I just, I'm always kind of got my eye on everybody and just want to make sure everybody's doing okay. And I saw yours come through and I was like, okay, like we had a big drop. Yeah. Yeah, like a very significant drop, like a few
Mm,
pounds, right? A couple
yeah.
pounds. Yeah.
hmm
And so okay, first of all, like I know that last week we had a little switch, like I lowered your calorie. Wait, no, we didn't lower your calorie. Did I lower your calories more? I didn't.
No,
I
no.
increased your steps and kind of
Yes.
and urged you to track more diligently,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Um, so do you feel like that felt like a little discouraging, like, oh, I've got to tighten it up more, or, did that contribute to the slump? Or I don't know, like what do you think?
Yeah, I don't think it was really discouraging because if anything, it made me go back and really evaluate how I had been tracking. And I think I put in my check-in, I was just adding a little bit here and a little bit there. And I think all of those things really did take me out of my deficit because I'm sure it was a couple hundred calories easy or a few little just licks and bites and things like that. So it wasn't really discouraging. If anything, it was just a good time to reflect on how I was tracking. But I think it goes back to I got uncomfortable tracking. And
Mhm.
so then I was like, oh, we can kind of loosen up some. But then right as you want to do that, that's when I started seeing the results later in the week. So I was like, okay, let's just
Yeah,
stay
because
with it.
yeah, so I was gonna ask you in your check-in this week, so I was so glad you're on the call. Like, okay, so all of a sudden we had this like, and it was probably coming anyway, but then you just tightened up you like took all these good habits that you were forming and then just tightened them up a little bit more and truly put yourself in a deficit and the
Right.
scale responded, just went
Yes.
whoop. So we might
Yeah.
have been kind of going in that direction anyway because we can have fat loss even if the scale isn't showing, it
hmm
all the time from week to week.
hmm
I was feeling encouraged because you were reporting that clothes were fitting better. I could see in your
Yes.
pictures like things were leaning out, but I was like, okay, based on like the effort that you're putting in, we should see a little bit more, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
so, yeah, so it sounds like you tightened up the tracking. And when you did that, what did you notice? Like, did you f feel the deficit more? Did you notice maybe places where you had been kind of adding here and there, or maybe like eyeballing things or
Yeah, it was a lot of eyeballing. And then it's just kind of things that I just thought I wanted. And we had talked about last week about how, you stand in front of the refrigerator, you stand in the pantry. And so I think I was just trying to get like the fullest out of everything. And I was like, well, because I stood in the pantry one time, I was like, I don't even know what I really want. And so I did. I left and then I never came back to the pantry. I didn't even get anything out of the pantry. So I think it was almost like I was just trying to just fill as much as possible with all the not all the macros necessarily, but for sure protein and then calories. I was just trying to get like the most bang for the buck, and I was like, I don't have to do that every single day. Like if it works that way, great, but it doesn't have to be like that every day.
Yeah.
So that was kind of eye-opening, I guess, that I don't have to hit those things exactly 100% or 98, or it could be 90 one day and it could be 92, and that's okay still too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I like to tell people, like, listen, like the macros are there to be your guide, right?
Mhm.
But like the main goal, keeping the main thing the main thing. The main goal is to try
Right.
to maintain that deficit, right?
Yeah.
And so if you're, if your protein is a little under, or if your
Yes.
fats or your carbs are a little under, but you're maintaining that deficit, then great. We're gonna get some weight loss. And some people approach the macros from two. There's like two different ways I see people approach it. Either they're trying to like slash to the point where I'm like, okay, you actually probably need to eat a little more food, and they're just like hanging on for dear life. Or
Right.
there are others, and I'm in your camp probably a little bit
Yeah.
more, where I'm like, how much can I squeeze out of this budget? Like
Yes.
I
Yes.
try to ride it to the edge, right?
Right.
And
Right.
so you're not alone in that, and I totally get that. But then it comes to a point where you're like, okay, I think I am not only taking it to the edge, I'm going over the edge,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so
Yes.
if things aren't happening,
Right.
and really when we're talking about deficits for most of you that whoever's on the call today, like you're like we're talking like a maybe a 20% deficit from your
Right.
main, right? Which isn't like it doesn't represent that many calories. We're,
Hmm.
we and I take the approach of minimum effective dose, right? Because
Yeah.
I don't want us to get into this place where we're just hanging on for dear life. But in order to do that, you actually do have to accurately track when you're in
Yes.
in the deficit. So it
Mhm.
was great. I was like, oh, hallelujah. Because I knew
Yeah.
based on your calories, I was like, I don't want to drop her any lower. I just
Uh-huh.
like my spidey senses as a coach
Yeah.
is that she's just pushing into her maintenance.
Yes. Yep.
And it happens. It happens.
Mhm.
And I don't you're fairly newer to are you newer to tracking, or you've tracked before? Or is this your first
I
time?
I have before, but I was definitely out of practice. I needed to get back into tracking regularly.
Yeah, and sometimes it just takes a little bit, like sometimes we spend that first month of a deficit just trying to relearn the skills, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
kind of like get in that mode again, like getting like, okay, this is what we're doing again. And sometimes it's like a train, right? It just takes a
Yeah.
little bit to pick up speed. And that was why I could see there was like some people in the group that I was like, okay, they might benefit from another month from this. Like I feel like they're starting to get their rhythm, and that's kind of why I was like, maybe
Yeah.
offered the extension for those that wanted to, because I'm like, okay,
Hmm.
I feel like some of these women are like picking up and
Yep.
and could really make some more headway in this next month. And so I've had people ask me before, like, how long should you be in a deficit? And I'm
Right.
like, well, it really depends on the person, and it depends on how much progress they're making. And some
Hmm.
people are in a deficit, but not in a deficit, so they may be in a fat loss phase for 12 weeks, maybe longer than that, but really only be in a true deficit for half that time.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
it really just kind of depends on the person. I don't recommend people being in deficits for months and months and months and months, but most people are not in true deficits for months and months and months and months.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. Or you have something happen where you get sick or you go on vacation or something, and that takes you out of
Yes.
your deficit for a little bit too. So
Yeah.
yeah, because I finally think I realized too, like, because my macros, it's like they're perfectly fine. Like that's a great number. If I hit them, I do, and if I don't, if I'm under, it's enough. Like I figured out it's enough.
Yeah.
Either way, if you're on or a little bit under, it's still enough because I'm never like super, super hungry all day long. I'm not thinking about food every, between meals. Like I'm satisfied. So I think it sounds kind of silly, but I think I like trust the numbers now
Yeah,
that I
well, and
don't
that's
have to.
okay. And I don't expect anyone to come in like you do have to build that trust with
Yeah.
the numbers, with the system, like with your coach. It just takes a
Right.
little bit. And
Right.
um and then, as far as like as we come out of fat loss,
Hmm.
it will require some diligence as well, right? I'm not in the camp of having you have to track, and maybe we've talked about this on the call before, that you have to track this way for life. But I
Hmm.
do think that there is a level of tracking that has to happen in some form or another for life, you know?
Right.
Like, and
Right.
we can talk about we can call it tracking, we could call it awareness, whatever it is, there has to be a level of just intention in how we choose to eat for life. And I think
Hmm.
I see a lot of people not wanting that, and I get that, but it's like, well, if you want to maintain, if you want to manage, it requires that.
Right.
Yeah. So for those that are going to be like coming out of this fat loss phase, and maybe and eventually you will too, not 2 weeks, but 6 weeks,
Yeah.
um, I will be giving everybody macros as they're coming out.
Okay.
So I give everybody an exit strategy. I actually feel like that next phase of maintenance is equally important. And so what
Hmm.
I'll usually tell people is to track. I'll give them a range and I'll say, okay, this is what I'm guessing the low end of your maintenance is, and this would be the higher end of your maintenance. And I want
Okay.
you to stick to the low end of your maintenance for a couple of weeks and really track it. And then as you come out of that, you can start to play with that range and be more intuitive. That's where we really kind of employ a little more intuitive eating. Like, there might be some days that you're feeling hungry, so you can eat closer to the upper end of your range, right? Maybe adding in
Hmm.
a couple hundred more calories. And then some days you're not as hungry and maybe you're eating on the lower end of your range. Because your maintenance isn't like a set in stone number, right?
Yeah. Right.
It will fluctuate, right? So that's how I usually pull people, as they come out of fat loss into maintenance. This is the strategy we employ. Just like, okay,
Okay.
here's your range, stay there for a couple of weeks at the low end and then start playing with the upper end, but stay within the
Hmm.
parameters, right? So it's like you
Yeah.
still have those guardrails, but it's just a little bit wider, which for some people is great. And other people, that's actually kind of harder in some
I was about
ways.
to say, yeah, I think because I have done a deficit and then a maintenance before, and I think maintenance was actually harder than the deficit.
Yes.
So, yeah, I'll be really,
Because
um,
I think you start to feel like, you were saying you kind of went into the weekend and got a little bit like lax, right?
right.
And so it's like, how do I hold on to the discipline, but also the grace
Yeah,
at the same time?
at the same time. Hmm.
Like holding these like kind of competing ideas, but it's almost required for maintenance is to hold these competing ideas at the same time.
Right, right. They can coexist, but yes, how do you do that? Yeah,
Yeah.
successfully. Uh-huh.
Yes. Yeah. And I don't know, what do you think about that? Like, you said that was kind of challenging for you before?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, and I because yeah, I don't really want to track, my food every day, all day long for the rest of my life necessarily. So I almost feel like there were seasons where I'd like pop in for like a week or two and just kind of track what I was eating to see, am I even in my range? Am I above? Am I below? And then I'd spend some time not tracking. But then the whole time I'm kind of wondering, like, well, is it too much? Is it not enough? Do I So the macros are nice to have because it's reassuring, but at the same time, I don't want to be tied to them. So
Yeah. I think that's a
it's
really good
confusing.
strategy too. I think I've done that before. I see a lot of people when you start to kind of feel like, oh, like maybe I need to brush up on these skills a little bit. Maybe I just need to do like a little temperature check and see kind of where I'm at right
Hmm.
now. And tracking, it's a good skill to know and to kind of refresh yourself. I'm like, okay, where am I eating? What are these portions supposed to be looking like? And
Right.
paying attention to how your body feels while eating that, and then just kind of dipping back into that for a little bit to just as a refresher course, and then
Hmm.
applying those skills back to every day, right? And
Right.
and then you can, be a little bit that maintenance range is a little more forgiving where you can eyeball a little bit more, but you still have to pay attention to like the
Right.
showing up at the pantry. with like,
Yes.
why am I
Yes.
here? Right?
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And because I don't want the clue or the cue to be, oh, my pants are fitting tighter, or I don't, feel the same way. Like, I don't want it to get to that point. So
Hmm.
I need to probably listen to my body a little bit more and figure out some of those intuitive, cues.
Yeah,
How does it make me feel? That type of stuff.
I think the cue that your pants are getting tighter means that you've ignored a lot of cues along the way.
Yes. Right. Right. So I need to be better on picking up the cues before we get
And I
there.
say you as in we collectively.
Sure.
Like
Right.
I
Right.
I
Sure. Yeah.
think like yes, because that's like you don't want to get
Yes.
to that point where you're like, "Oh no," like
Right.
I'm not fitting into my clothes anymore. And you heard all the time like just go buy bigger pants and I'm like, "Well, I feel like that might be just kicking the can down the road, right?" Like
Right.
like yes, surely you want to
Good
have clothes
point.
that fit well and you feel good in, but if you're getting to the point where things in your clothing isn't fitting well, that means you have ignored a lot
Right.
of other bodily cues along the way. Like you've eaten
Yes.
when you haven't really truly been hungry, like
Mhm.
we've all eaten and you've like regretted it afterwards because you just feel sick, and those are all
Right.
these like cues that our body is honestly giving us like this is too much. I don't feel good. This is giving me indigestion. This is,
Hmm.
or I feel
Hmm.
depleted. Like all you've had today is carbs and no protein,
Right.
And and so yeah, I think that is the goal of successful maintenance is just being able to be really tuned in to and like you've
Hmm.
learned these skills, you've gone to food school in a sense, and then like life was always about, redirecting, kind of going back to the highway metaphor. Like you have these lines, but it's like a long road trip, right? You put it in
Hmm.
cruise
Hmm.
control, but every once in a while you kind of have to make adjustments. You have to make sure you're in your lane. You can't just completely clock out,
Right.
or otherwise you're going to be off like in the
Yes.
ditch, right?
Yeah. 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 Because I can get into just the all or nothing. It's like, okay, I'm tracking everything or I'm not doing any tracking. And then that's where you've really taken a detour and it takes a long time to get
Yeah.
back on the highway. So I would prefer not to do that going
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, we would all prefer that. And sometimes it happens. Sometimes we kind of
Yeah.
have to just like recheck and just kind of
Go with it.
restart. Sometimes we have to do another fat loss phase,
Yeah.
and that's where I think the grace comes in and you just try not to beat yourself up and you just kind of get back in knowing, okay, I know how to
Hmm.
do this. I've done this before, and
Yeah.
but yeah, I think you're right. Like the happiest place to be in is to be able to just successfully maintain. And
Hmm.
that just takes a lot of practice. And
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I still think about it. I was at a party this weekend for a friend and there was all sorts of food around. And I kind of just like looked and I was like, but what do I really want?
Hmm.
Do I really want? What do I really need? And in all reality, it wasn't much. And
Yeah.
there actually wasn't a lot that I truly like was worth it to me either. Like I
Hmm.
just was like, I can do without nacho cheese.
Right.
No, that's just gonna hurt my gut. Like, no thanks. And I
Hmm.
decided a small piece of a frosted pumpkin bar, like, was what I
Yeah.
wanted. And it was absolutely worth it. And it like hit the spot and it was a perfect little amount. And then I had a sugar-free soda and I talked to people and felt perfectly happy. And it just
Hmm.
all depends. But I think those are like those little things that come to play is like just the intention, right? Like you kind
Right.
of look around and be like, what is actually worth it to me given my goals right
Yes.
now and how I feel right now? And
Yeah.
that's how maintenance is so successful for so long.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
yeah.
Right. Yeah. I need to think about that more. What's actually worth it to eat right now?
Yeah. Because even in a
Yeah.
deficit, that pumpkin bar might be worthy of your tracking and your time.
Hmm.
And that could be the thing that could help this fat loss phase be like more
Yeah.
sustainable. So you're not just hanging on all the time. But
Right.
other times it's not.
Yes. Hmm. We're actually we're in a little part of Fort Worth and they have this really good pie shop.
Mhm.
And so I've kind of planned out my day that I'm gonna have a little slice of pie
Yay,
today.
good. And that's going to feel
Yeah.
so much better because you've already planned it out.
Yep.
It's logged
Mhm.
in. You're like, oh,
Yes.
this is going to be so great.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yep.
Yeah, I'm so glad. That makes me happy to hear that you
Hmm.
get. What kind of pie are you going to get?
Oh, I don't even know. There's so many choices. They have like a pumpkin on a gingerbread crust.
Oh my
And then they
gosh.
have like an apple one, and they have a cinnamon cheesecake on a gingerbread something or on a graham cracker. So I don't even know which one I'm gonna
Yeah,
get
it
yet.
doesn't sound like you can go wrong. So,
Yeah.
and you said this week you're on fall break with your kids. And so
hmm
what are your
hmm
strategies for this week? Because you're kind of off schedule a little bit and
Yes. Yes. Yeah, so I was gonna try to definitely still like get up at the same time like we do for school, and then instead of the time that we spend going to and from school, thinking that would be a good time to go on the walk in the morning
yeah.
because I've been trying to really pair that with after my workout. I just go on a walk like around the neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's like 10, 12 minutes, a little path that I have. I actually need to make that path longer to get in more steps. But yeah, just trying to get up at like the same kind of time and get some stuff done in the morning. And then food wise, like going out to lunch or going to dinner or something. I think I've talked about this, but I've normally been eating oatmeal in the morning, which is pretty carb heavy, but it has protein and it's pretty filling. I mean, I'm never really hungry before lunch. And so for some of those days, I've about decided I'm going to skip the oatmeal in the morning and just do more of like a protein shake up with almond milk.
Yeah.
Because I don't really mind that with almond milk.
Yeah.
And do that and then just kind of save some of those calories and carbs for lunch or for dinner.
Which I think is
Um,
totally fine. You do what feels best to you, and I think that's a smart move to try to front load a little protein, a little extra, knowing that you're gonna probably eat a heavier meal, maybe
mhm,
midday or whatever, that you might not have as much control over, like the protein content and stuff. So I
right.
think that that's great. I did read over your check-in very quickly, and I know you're trying to get more steps in. You were asking like,
Yes,
how do I get
yes.
more steps?
Other
Yeah,
than just walking more, I know it sounds so silly.
no, I know. Well, I mean, sometimes it can be challenging to get like a big chunk of a walk. And like if I'm already strength training, then I gotta walk and everything. And it's a lot
Yeah.
sometimes. And so, like you said, taking your normal route and just extending it. So, I mean, it is truly like my advice to you is walk more, but there are
Right.
strategies.
I
And
know.
then sometimes when I do increase my steps intentionally when I'm in a deficit, I will add in another walk after dinner. And it
Mhm.
does a couple of things, right? It not only will increase my overall steps for the day, but it actually helps me digest the food a little bit better. It actually can improve insulin sensitivity if you walk after a meal. So that's a great strategy anytime or any meal really. Like even
Yeah.
if you're taking like a quick walk around the block, like after lunch or something. So
hmm
just kind of finding ways, and this is such old school advice, but like parking far away.
Right,
You
right.
know,
Yeah.
like instead of going through the drive-through for something, go in. I was actually
Uh-huh.
returning something at Target the other day, and it was like dry. You can pull up to return stuff now. Did you know that?
Oh no.
You
I didn't
can
know
do a
that.
drive up, and I thought, no wonder we are all so unhealthy. Like
Right.
everything has become so easy. And
Right.
so I guess that would be
Yeah.
my advice is like try to intentionally make things a little harder for yourself. And
hmm
those little steps really do add up,
Yeah.
like we have such an easy society now. It's just like it's really trying to, even like the concept of going to a gym. Can you imagine like our ancestors being like,
Oh,
wait, there's whole buildings dedicated to them
right.
just lifting heavy
Just,
things
uh-huh.
and then like
Right.
walking on treadmills, like when
Right.
I'm like trying to
What is
run this
this?
farm
Mm-hmm.
and like have my livestock, right? Like
Right.
and everyone's like, "Oh, like, like food's gotten worse." Well, yeah, I mean, we have hyper palatable food that's so easy to accept to access. Plus, we have such easier lives, right? Like we really
Mm-hmm.
do. And so it's just like almost trying to like taking that time to create more home cooked meals and making
Right.
life less easy for yourself is, and but you will find like it helps. The steps do add up, and the satisfaction factor it adds up. Like
Mm-hmm.
a walk after dinner feels really nice, you
Yeah.
know?
Right. I could see that. Yeah.
Yeah,
I did maybe it was last week or the week before last. I got to an appointment, just a doctor's appointment, like 10 minutes early before
yeah,
they wanted me to check in. And I thought, well, I could go sit down and look at my phone for 10 minutes or I could just walk around. So I just walked around their third floor for 10 minutes and found this outside parking garage I didn't know was there, and then I was amazed. So that did add up. So I need to do more of that.
yeah.
Yeah, just to get in those extra little steps.
They call them little like snack walks,
Yeah.
like so
Yeah.
taking little snack walks. So
Yep.
it doesn't have to be, I know sometimes like the extra steps can feel overwhelming, but it's really just taking it in those little chunks and it really does
Mm-hmm.
add up over the course of the day and honestly feel so much better. I heard some, and not that we're talking about depression, but like we are hitting into getting into fall. And for a lot of people,
Mm-hmm.
we have shorter days and it gets dark at night, and that can be
Right.
really hard too. And I heard a quote recently, and I've been thinking about it a lot, is it depression has a hard time hitting a moving target.
Oh,
And I love that because even though, like, depression is varied and vast, right? Like, a lot of people have like they have seasonal depression or maybe
yeah.
severe depression, and it doesn't mean movement is the fix all for everything. But generally speaking, when we're busy and moving and productive and getting fresh air and sunlight and all of those things, we feel better.
Mm-hmm.
We feel
Mm-hmm.
better, or better yet, invite a friend, right? Like
Yeah.
if you struggle to like get steps in, like or it's just hard to get up and get moving, like invite a friend to go for a walk. You will might let yourself down, but you probably wouldn't let your friend down.
Right. Right. And you'll probably walk way further with your friend than you're gonna walk by yourself because you're just gonna start talking and then yeah, like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh,
One
look
of
what
our
time it is.
uplifters, Amy, she's local, and she couldn't usually she can only make the 7 p.m. call. And I said, well, hey, I'm going to be at the gym on Wednesday in the afternoon. I was like, do you want to walk with me on the treadmill afterwards? And we'll have a check-in.
Uh-huh.
And we ended up, I think both of us were thinking we'd be on the treadmill for 15 or 20 minutes. And we ended
Yeah.
up walking for an hour on the
Oh
treadmill.
wow. Yeah. The
And
time
we
just
didn't
flies.
check in the whole time, but we just like it was just so much like the time just flew by because I was
Yeah.
chatting with a friend. And so
Mm-hmm.
anyway, so yeah, like
That's
that's
great.
probably another good walking hack is find a friend, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's
Somebody
so
to
much,
walk with.
and it helps with any depression or anxiety,
Yeah.
and it's that accountability partner, and it goes by so
Mm-hmm.
much faster. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm. Well,
Those
you're
are good
doing
ideas.
really good. I'm excited to dive in deeper into your all your data, but you had an amazing week. So keep doing what you're doing. I love all your
Thank you.
strategies, and thanks for being on the call today.
Yeah,
Do you have
thank
anything else
you.
I can help you with while we're on?
Um, no, I was just gonna say I'm just looking forward to the next 4 weeks. That extension was good. I think it'll be really nice. Yeah. And I'm excited for the new programming coming out soon too. That'll be
Yay, I
fun.
know, me
Yeah.
too. I'm ready for a switch up. It'll be good. So,
Yeah. That's
all
exciting.
right. Well, have
Well,
a
thank
great
you so
weekend.
much.
Enjoy your pie.
Okay. Thank
You'll
you.
have to
I
let us
will.
know which one you decided on.
Okay.
All
All
right.
right. Well,
I'll
thank
talk to you.
you. All
Thanks.
right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.